Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Today, I am live with John Emery, and he has a podcast himself, but he also helps you start a podcast if you want to start a podcast. But he has quite the victory story and before and after story. And I know many of you listening here have gone through your own challenges that have led you to be passionate about your business and what you are currently doing as your mission now. And so, John, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, share your podcast, share kind of what even got you into that, your story, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So my podcast is Life's Checkmark. People come on and share their journey, whatever that is. We just have a straight conversation. I just look for guests that are authentic and open and honest and vulnerable. So what led me to start a podcast? For me, I had a job for about 20 years and they decided to close. And so I was like, first, I don't know what I'm going to do. Who knows? And then I looked at it as an opportunity, right? So I tried something new. I went into life insurance real quick. Totally different, not a 9 to 5, it's commission based. And I enjoyed starting YouTube videos and stuff and trying to teach whoever I was trying to reach all about what I had to offer. I probably closed my first one after 8 months of working on it. So I was pretty excited about that and I liked where it was going. Around that time, I found out, things were a little shaky at home. So I wasn't sure what was going on. So there was relationship issues going on. I was married. It was going to be almost 15 years. And, we have 2 kids. Ultimately, within the same year of me losing my job, the word divorce came up. And so for me personally, I had to fight the battle of what was going on, try to figure it all out. And I had to get to that point where I was going to be stable to move forward after, once that word was mentioned to me. And I worked on that. And it's funny that we're talking about podcasts because, I stumbled upon one. I was listening 2 years prior to that for just to become a better father. And for whatever reason, that came on in January of that year. And they had a men's group you can join, get help, whatever, just talk about whatever. For me, I was happy to connect with 4 or 5 men. And that gave me space to talk and just try to figure some stuff out, that get things out of your head, right? And I got to a point where when the word came to me, I was okay with it. At first I was not ready for it, but then after walking through with these guys and, finding some kind of safe haven in a sense, I was ready. So that's a journey itself, going forward after that. But it led me to podcasting 2 years later. And I was just I went on this journey of mentally, physically, relationships, spiritual, business, finance, all that stuff. And so I was like, well, how is everybody else handling things in life? And a lot of people that I've had, I feel has experienced something so much worse than what I've gone through. But we are all meant to go through what we're supposed to go through because that's just who we are. There's a reason we go through the things we go through because that's just how strong we can be to show up. So that's a little bit about my journey and stuff. Feel free to ask questions if you like and anything else.
Well, it's so crazy that you kind of got hit with both relationship challenges and losing your job and being a
Yeah.
parent while trying to juggle all of that going on. So I'm curious, when you're at a low point, because a lot of the entrepreneurs here listening, if they, whether or not they start a podcast or just in their business, they're going to hit low points. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be things they couldn't see coming. What advice would you give to them to get through that hard time? It sounds like you had community, but any advice for, when they feel like, I don't see the other side of this and I'm in it and it feels very overwhelming and they're not maybe maintaining what they are used to maintaining, whether that's, the activities in their business or things like that?
Yeah. So for me, there's a lot I can think about on this. And so for me, like, for example, like with the whole podcast thing, like I started to just do it just to learn from others. Right. I feel like it allowed me to grow as a person, plus whoever's listening to it. And that was it. Like, it was nothing to monetize, nothing to grow the audience. It was just to learn. And I've connected with so many individuals over the past 2+ years, and that allowed me to grow. So for me, it's like focusing on the why. So why do I do it? My mission is just to reach that one person, and hopefully it changes their life. They listen to it, and if it's not for them, they share it to a friend or whatever that might be going through something that this person shared and how they got through it. So that's how I keep showing up. Like, why am I doing this? And same thing, as another way I could look at it too is, if I was to quit today, I have 2 kids, they're 15 and 12. They could see that, okay, dad quit, right? Maybe there's a point where I might have to give up, like, because of whatever reason, but not, for me to try and support others, right? So I don't want to quit. I'm enjoying it so much, I say, so that's not happening. But there's another reason there. Like, people see what you do, and you might tell them that you're going to do something. You might tell them, all this stuff, but until you do it and show the action and behavior, then that really stands out. So that's what I would suggest. Remember your why, focus on that, and talk to other people that could support you. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to connect with other entrepreneurs. Like, on my podcast, I try to connect with more podcasters, right? So we just keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it sounds like you have what we call a growth mindset, where it's like you are about who you become in the process. And it's not just about monetizing the podcast or getting a certain amount of listens or whatever. It's more like, I'm excited about who I'm going to become in this process and the other fun stuff that might happen along the way. But really, your focus is on, what do I want to demonstrate? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be for my kids? And I think that's what really carries the people who actually make it in entrepreneurship through. So tell me a little bit about, when you were starting your podcast. I think a lot of us start podcasts because we listen to them and they get us through a hard time. I don't know about you, but I also was let go from working in the startup world, and it was very unanticipated. And I really did use podcasts to like start thinking about other options and kind of heal and like digest my emotions and like listen to podcasts about processing your emotions and things like that. So when you first started or decided you wanted to start, where did you start? Because a lot of people say, I don't know where to start. I have no idea. It's very daunting.
Yeah, I have a story to go along with this. So I attended my first event after the divorce and everything by myself. And at a breakfast table, there was probably a couple guys. Everybody left but one. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know, start a podcast, right?" And so we spoke for a little bit, and I told him, I said, I did 10 Facebook Lives when I was doing the insurance thing. And then I stopped because everything going on at home. This was like 2 years ago. After the fact that I started the podcast. And so he's like, "Oh, just take the audio from that and start that with your but it's like nothing that I want my podcast to be. It was really not. So I sat on that. I hesitated. It took me 6 months to do 2, 3 little clicks to take the sound. And then I just wound up posted it on, I used Spotify for podcasters, which it is known now. And I just started for free, right? And just see how it went. So that gave me the first 10 and then allowed me to go ahead and find people that I knew, reach out to other people after that. as far as being guest for what it is today. If I didn't do that, I don't know if I ever would have really started, because we all hesitate and get worried that we won't find that guest that wants to be on our new podcast, when a lot of people are willing to do something like that. You just got to be that person that's actually going to push it out. So yeah, that's what I say. And so I run into all these people all the time. They're like, oh, I do Instagram Live or Facebook Live. I'm like, perfect. You already have a podcast. You're just not calling it that. So make it be yours. And we already know Facebook is going to delete things after 30 days, right? So take it and keep it and let it be yours and make it a podcast.
Yeah, one of the things I love about podcasts is there's no shelf life. It's like on Instagram, your stories expire after 24 hours. Facebook now deletes lives after 30 days. So you can download your live on any of these platforms. There's tools to do that and reuse it, like you said. So if someone, I'm going to share with you just some of the questions that I hear from my clients and that we discuss when it comes to like if they're starting a podcast or being a guest on podcasts. Obviously, I know it's important to think about like what you want your message to be with your podcast and all of that. But once they get the foundations down, a common thing I hear is like, okay, so should I launch with several episodes or should I launch with just one and then do it like every week? Or if I'm just starting, like, isn't it going to be weird if there's one episode? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So for example, I had 10, right? So I launched 3 in the first week that I was going to go. And then I did 1 per week after that. So I believe there's about 300,000 to 400,000 right now that actually post 1 per week that are considered active podcasts. So that gives you an idea of how much room there is to grow in this, even though they say there's like 3.4 million out there. Most of them are dead, or they could be doing the season thing. People show up for a couple months and they disappear and then they come back, or they might not come back at all, because they're like, oh, I gave up for a little while. So I suggest, and it was suggested to me to do something like that. Start with 3. And that way somebody listens to the first one, they'll listen to the second one, and they get in a rhythm. Okay, this is what it's about. I want to come back to this. And then they can subscribe, if they wanted to rate and review, great. And then they can pick up the next week when you launch it out. And real quick with episode 0, I don't know if you have that or not, but that's what I used to say, hey, these first 10 episodes are from when I did this, right? And then after that is what the next, everything is going to be. And you can always go back and edit that too.
Nice. That's a great piece of advice. Yeah. I mean, I think I started with just 1 because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And I was just like, this seems cool. I guess I'll just start this. So honestly, at the end of the day, what's so shocking is what you just said about how many people actually stick with a podcast. Like that, it sounds so low to me but isn't it like there's a percentage of people who make it past like 7 episodes and it's very small?
Yeah, I don't know that one. I know 90% don't make it past 3 episodes.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And then after episode 21, you're in the top 1% because of all the people that fell off, along the way. So people don't realize it is work, right? But that's why I brought up the why. Like, why are you doing this? Like, that's going to drive you to keep moving forward.
Right.
And if you don't have that, then you might just give up.
Totally. Yeah. So the other thing I hear a lot is, okay, if I want to have guests on, and let's say my podcast is about hormones and hormonal balance and perimenopause and menopause. I always talk about in my program, like you want to you want to collaborate with people who complement what you do as opposed to doing the exact same thing as you do. And we all know nobody does the exact same thing, but you know what I'm saying. So it would make sense for you and I to collaborate because you teach people how to start a podcast. I teach people overall marketing and sales. So what would you say is like, how does somebody know if someone's a complimentary guest or a good guest? And what would be your advice for like trying to decide guests? And the other caveat is they feel like, well, okay, there might be good guests, but if they have such a big following, that's so scary, they're going to not want to collaborate with me.
Collaboration's a little tough sometimes. Yeah. Because you're always leaning on the other person to actually release your episode, and you might release yours first when you had them on. So that's a little tricky. I don't see another way around that than to trust and have honest in that. And so I'll share how I do mine. Like I'll do like a 20-minute intro call before I even say, hey, let's schedule an episode. That's just what I've been doing. I enjoy it because I'm building relationships, and who knows where those relationships can go. And there's a few, maybe I say like, hey, this isn't working, the vibe isn't there. It's just, we have to match. We have to have the kind of same energy, to me, right? Other people would go through a form and stuff. And if I did some of them, nobody ever really got back to me anyways, for whatever reason. So that I never found that to be fun, but you get to choose. It's your podcast, right? And then as far as like the guests to kind of complement your podcast, well, that's where you have to filter them out in a sense. You could choose those two ways I just shared with you. There could be other ways we could talk about too, maybe that, you could dive a little deeper and say, hey, that it's not a good fit or it is. But making sure that the compliment, I mean, I guess they're afraid that somebody's going to come on and like overcompensate for who they are in their business. Is that my
Yeah.
understanding?
Yeah, like if they're a perimenopause coach, they're not going to have another perimenopause coach on the show.
Right.
Like, how do they decide who complements what I do and who's a good guest for me? It sounds like the vibe check is one of the things they should consider. But is there anything else that you think is important?
I think maybe finding out what your audience wants to listen to. If you're doing guests, right? But they're probably primarily there to listen to you. And so if you're the entrepreneur, you're the expert, that's where you start doing your solo episodes and and keep showing up that way. And then you might highlight, hey, I have this special guest coming on to share, I don't know, let's just say it was totally different of how to do Instagram post, right? Because your audience could be interested in something like that. I have no idea. It could be off the wall, but it also could help the entrepreneur too to go, now I know how to do Instagram post at a deeper level. So they're expanding as well. Yeah, I know these are totally different
Yeah.
areas we're talking
Yeah.
about, but you can bring that up. But I think reaching out to your audience and finding out what they want is going to be the best thing.
Oh, for sure. That's a great piece of advice, and getting that feedback, because a lot of the other things that, in order to grow your podcast, you have to think about what topics you're covering and what are the titles of your episodes, because part of being found or discovered with your podcast is going to depend on the titles or keywords you're using, because people might search in iTunes, whatever word that they're looking for an episode on. And I'll give you an example of this, John. I have been on a long dental journey because I have something called abfractions, which is my mouth was too small, and so I was putting a bunch of pressure on the bottom of my teeth. And so the dental, we won't get into it, but the point is I had to do this whole orthopedic, or I don't even know the word, orthodontic work to work on not having my teeth so pressured on each other. So anyways, this is a new concept to me. I'm a grown adult. I thought I was done with orthodontic work. Here I am. So I go on podcasts and I search the word abfractions. And do you know that I found only one episode from a dentist on this topic? And I was like, what? I thought I'd find so many I could listen to, and I found like one. And so naturally I was like, okay, this is my boy, Dr. whatever his name was. And I listened to it. And so I think you can really get people to find you through keywords. So what are your advice on, like, any tips for titling episodes, or episodes trends you've noticed when naming your episodes, or any advice about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I've been using mostly AI to kind of help create the stuff I have, because sometimes we just don't think about it, right? And like for instance, the one that came up yesterday was Journey, right? And it is basically about a woman's journey, and so I like that. I liked how that showed up. Whether it's going to be great or not, I don't know. Now remember, you can always go back and change these. It's not set in stone. So if you find another keyword, like if you're going to go on Google or whatever and look up all these keywords and stuff, I'll do it too. I'll look up keywords that might match like personal growth, or self-improvement, because that's what I feel like mine is about. and just change it up as I go. If I feel like I want to change it, right? And also, add that stuff in the description as well, wherever it seems to fit. It's got to flow though. It's got to, don't just put the keywords at the bottom or something like that, Um, but yeah, I mean, you can look, I think like what you said, you were looking for that one and you found that one keyword for what you were looking for. And let's go back real quick, because with the entrepreneurs that you're talking about, if they want to show up as the expert, that guy showed up as the expert. Even if even if there was like a couple of them out there, he was able to share his information on that. And he had that, I don't know, was that in the title or was it in the
Yeah, it was
description?
in the title. Yeah.
Yeah. So it picked out exactly what it was going to be about. Some people might not do that. And for example, I tried one the other day, and I'll probably change it, where she came on talking about podcasting, but she was in management with the Giants team and then transitioned and now is podcast host and all this stuff. So I have a little bit in the description about podcast host, but I'll probably go deeper and change it and make it so that it's more based on podcasting. Again, if we're talking about podcasting and I'm like, okay, I like to help people on podcasting, you're talking to me like I feel like that there's like some kind of competition there. And it's really not. Again, it's a way for us all to grow in our own businesses as well. So if you were able to talk to another health coach or, helping other people get out there to share, to grow their business in health or whatever, that could help you as a person too. And it doesn't have to be a podcast. It's just, you're always trying to grow. But,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. When I first started, I think I was worried about that. And now that I've been doing podcasting since 2017, it's really about, let's get people the answers that they want, regardless of who it comes from.
mhm.
And it always has only been beneficial and to your overall business and brand, because who's being helped? Your audience. And when you help them, whether it's from you or someone on your show, that's still a win for your brand, your reputation, etc. And somebody's going to go to anyways the person they feel the best fit with. And so even if it's not you, it's you want someone to find the best fit for them. So I think you bring up a great point there. And what I'm hearing with the titles is that you can always change it. So I think the refreshing theme here that you're saying is you don't have to be set in stone with everything with your podcast.
Oh no.
Have you evolved anything or changed anything since the beginning of when you started your podcast to now?
I've changed my title a couple of times. Now, I'll leave life's check mark, and I'll hear things and I'll try changing. Like I'll add keywords in my title. I also went and made my description really long, just to see what it does, right? And so things change, like, and you could track it here and there. You could just see the downloads or whatever, but sometimes it's hard to find all these analytics. Everything's a little skewed and all that, going different places. But yeah, I'll go back and like I was just the other day, I was looking up different keywords for like personal growth and stuff. And I'm like, well, let me try that one next time. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to play with it because I like seeing what's going on right now, but I'll get there and I'll try it and just see what happens. It's another way to reach a different audience that it has not found you yet. Right. So if you're thinking about giving up your podcast, just think of the people that just hasn't found you yet. Right. And it's really hard. I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to take it from Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff to get them to a podcast to listen, because it's a totally different platform. Even if you put the links in there and stuff, they're not going to click on it and go open up Apple or Spotify. It's really hard. So that's a whole trick in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think podcasters are devoted to podcasts, and they will probably find you through the podcast app more so than what you're saying on Instagram or Facebook. I think you're right about that. But I mean, I personally have clicked links from when, at least for me, but maybe that's just because I'm prone to liking podcasts. So who knows? But okay. Now, what about, because you're somebody who is an entrepreneur now, and I'm assuming you still juggle a day job, or maybe you've had a journey where you've had to do that. Any advice for how you deal with overwhelm? Because you are the exact example of what a lot of my clients are, which is they're juggling the business and a full-time job. So what are your thoughts on that?
Good luck. No, um, no, seriously, it's tough. So I do work a full-time job. I just came home so I could sit down and have this conversation with you. Right. So I ate something real quick. And then after this, I have a podcast community and I have somebody coming in that at 7. So that's another hour of my night. And, I do release an episode every week. So I still have to edit. I don't go as deep as some people might do. So I still work on that. And plus I'm doing a newsletter now. I'm posting things on social media. And it could be about what I do, but it's also about get the information out there for whoever came on to share their journey. For me, that's the idea. But yeah, if it's systems and processes and finding that structure that works for you, and don't take on too much at once. So, like, for example, if you're going to post something on social media, just pick one platform that you know well. So it could be Facebook or Instagram, and it doesn't have to be the best one, right? So you might think that Instagram is better than Facebook because podcasters tend to go there for whatever reason, right? You could do that, but if you don't know how to play it, then you're going to have to take the time to learn that. And so that's why I say just stick with one first. I've been jumping around. I tend to be in Facebook more. Now I'm looking at Instagram. It's never been my thing. And then, I post things on YouTube too, but that's just for the video part of the podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. And so like for whoever is saying this to you, it's basically like talking to, like, if they were to talk to me, we could probably have a better conversation so we can, what's going on? What's your schedule look like? For me, it took me a long time to start using Google Calendar. I was never that guy until I started podcasting. I'm like, I'm gonna have to keep up with who's coming on because I really don't want to be that person that doesn't show up for the episode. When it's my podcast, right. So I had to use that and just have some kind of calendar thing, like Calendly or whatever is out there that people can use so that it does go back and forth and people can pick on your schedule and you don't have to send them links or talk to them like, I'm off Monday and Tuesday. We could do it those days, stuff like that. Is there something specific on the overwhelm that you're getting?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. It's that they feel overscheduled, overbooked, and back
Mhm.
to back. Oh, I just worked a full day, and now my brain's tired, but now I got to go be on this podcast interview. So I think and then the other thing is the frustration of I want to do so much more for my business, but the limit is, you have an 8-hour work day and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Remember why you're doing like I keep coming up with that, right? Or remember
Yeah.
why. And it could be for kids, it could be to make extra money. I don't know what that is, right? That's your choice. But lean on that because that's just gonna keep on getting you to keep doing something. So you gotta take the action, right? And motivation doesn't get you anywhere, but taking the action is gonna help you succeed and move
Yeah.
forward in life. So again, I think the systems, the processes, tweaking them, looking at them maybe once a week or whatever to see what you can do is probably one of the best ways.
Agree. Yeah. And one more question for you, because this might be something you thought about or not, but obviously you have a strong why. But I'm curious if when you started your podcast, you were like, what are people from my work going to think about this podcast? Or what are my family and friends going to think? Or what's everybody going to think of me? I'm so worried that they're going to judge me. Or like I have this kind of like other life while
Yeah,
I'm doing this current day job. So how did you deal with that? Maybe fear of what other people think?
that's a great question. Uh, so for me, since I had to experience everything I went through, I'll bring up this one book, The Four Agreements. I'm sure other people have read it too. So it says don't take things personally, right? So that's the thing I kept looking at, and so I just decided to show up as myself. I also went through my values and stuff and realized what they are. So mine's just being authentic, and it's just going to be what it is. It took me a long time to go on other podcasts to kind of share my journey a little deeper. I've been sharing a lot more since, but I didn't want to show up as the person because I would never do this. Like, trying to think of the word, bashing on their mother, right? It's not what I'm here to do. I'm just here to share the experience of what I went through and how I dealt with it. And so I didn't want the words to come out where they might hear it one day and think that. So it took me a while to get that point where it's okay to share what I had to share. And, if they stumble upon something and they think different, then they can come back and talk to me if it comes to that point, right? And so, yeah, I mean, there's people out there, I'm sure, that knew that things happened and then they go and listen to me. I have no idea, right? Half the time people are going to watch and listen to you and not say anything anyways, but they're there. And so you have to get over that fear. And that's one of the things that's been popping up for me lately. Like, people are afraid to hit record because they're afraid of what other people are going to think. And then the other thing to think about too is, Hailey, you're more worried about yourself than you are worried about me, and that's what we all have to come to an agreement on. And I spoke for the first time in January on stage, and I had to put that in my head. Like, those people are there to hear me. They're not there to judge me on my performance as a speaker, but just to take in the information I'm sharing with them, because they're probably dealing with something that I went through and they just need to hear that. And that, so they're focused on themselves more than what we think. Right. Like, there's a lot of us. Yeah. There's a lot of us that think the other way around. So we have to get past that.
Totally. Great advice. Yeah. And I find it refreshing how little other people care or are thinking about you. As you just said, like, to me, that's just like, okay, and I'm going to do my thing, because nobody actually really cares.
No, they don't.
And if they do, it's like for 2 seconds and then they're on to the next thing. So where can everybody connect with you and find you?
So lifescheckmark.com, that has everything that I'm doing with the podcast. If you want to go listen to the podcast, it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, everything else. That's where they can go to find me. And, if you need any information from me, I can share that with you to put in the show notes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.